We are excited to have everyone here today share a new experience we have about Timeline, exciting new update to our platform, and pleased to be joined here by some of my colleagues on our solutions architect team. I have Adam Smith, and we also have our director of product, John Kelly. And so really excited to introduce some of the new capabilities today and talk about why we're here. And going to just start by going into what an agenda we have, but we're just going to talk about some of the visibility challenges that are related to seeing future content, and when you have a whole bunch of content, just seeing the state of what that content will look like and previewing and things like that. And then we're going to go into like what the new Timeline experience is and some of the key features involved, and then we'll hand it off to Adam to walk us through a demo of the experience. So before we jump in, let's go right into it. So there's really just, talking about content visibility, we want to talk about like three main things here. Being able to plan and understand how content will look in the future at any given time. When you have all these different pieces of content that are being orchestrated and kind of updating, working in tandem, it really makes it hard to understand how any specific piece of content may look when you have campaigns going on or anything like that. So that makes it hard to coordinate and plan effectively. There's roadblocks in the review process. When you have to review and understand what's changing, understanding exactly how content looks before and after, and how it will affect other updates and changes that are happening simultaneously, it can add friction and time to that process. And then as your organization grows and the complexity around your audience grows with customer behavior and campaign conditions or experimentation, A/B testing, all these things that can be going on that could affect the potential experience of any given audience member, can be really hard. Understanding how that might look at any point in time. And so really excited to introduce here, respond to like these challenges and how we go about responding to them. And so I'm excited to pass it off to our director of product, John Kelly, to walk us through.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. And morning, everyone, evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. So as Brandon said, content previews is something that is a pretty critically important component to the content lifecycle, and essentially being able to give teams and instill confidence and make teams productive when they actually are working in composable technologies. And of course, in the headless world, being able to have an understanding and an awareness and sort of that confidence in putting out to market, putting their story out to the world. So, previewing and content previewing is something that's just sort of like a visual experience is really a key component to everything that we do here at Contentstack. And so, we really wanted to look at this concept of leveraging releases, and actually the sort of origin story for what we'll talk about today came from an app that we developed in our marketplace a couple of years ago, leveraging our native releases capability. Releases for Contentstack are basically just large containers where you can place entries and assets and set those for publishing or unpublishing at any point in time. So really popular feature with a lot of our customers. And we really wanted to be able to leverage our preview service to be able to allow teams to actually have an awareness and a visualization of what those releases will look like in the future. So we had an app a couple years ago. It actually is currently deprecated in the marketplace. So we actually took a lot of learnings from that experience and pulled them back into our core native platform, and actually integrated the sort of algorithm that's doing some of those computations with our preview service, which is kind of what we're excited to talk about today. So we can advance one, Brandon. And looking at Timeline, so essentially what we wrote was a time machine. And I say that sort of in jest and very casually, but it is a really nice, interesting tool to allow teams to kind of step back and forth in time, sort of preview exactly what their application is going to look like at any point in time in the future. Notably, you have the ability to step through time, add specific markers on that timeline that are sort of persistent and allow you to kind of have those checkpoints. It could be very small increments, and so seeing how your app will change kind of minute by minute or hour by hour or day by day if there's a really critically important release window or promotional campaign window happening, or some kind of seasonal event that's happening. It does also allow teams to compare and individuals to compare those versions sort of side by side, which we'll get into during our demo. The idea here is that it allows teams and individuals to sort of step through time, not just to actually pinpoint a specific release or a specific entry, but actually to visualize the entirety of their application as it will look on a very precise date and time. So a few key features here that we kind of want to call out. As I kind of indicated, it does allow the ability to sort of pinpoint an actual release or an actual scheduled entry. And so it will actually compute changes, not just to the entries and assets in a release, but actually understands and has an awareness of individual entry changes as well. So it will actually compute those along that timeline. It provides the ability to create those sort of like custom previews. And so you don't need to necessarily just pinpoint one of those. We can actually just select an arbitrary date and time, and it will actually compute all the changes between today's date and that date as they currently stand. And so if any of those scheduled updates do or scheduled objects do change, it'll go ahead and recompute those and actually show you the updated version of your application on that date. It does provide the ability to actually compare a website or any two entries kind of side by side, and along with that to be able to highlight those differences as well. And we're going to show that through our demo. And then lastly, it does provide a manifest of those changes chronologically to see all of the individual entries and assets that are set to be changed over time between, again, today's date and the date that you're looking to preview that change for. So with that, I think we'll turn it over to our sales engineer, Adam, to go through a demo of the product.
Perfect. All right, so I'm actually going to start off with our new personalized product that some of you might have seen through ContentCon when John was on stage. And the reason I want to do that is what we're going to walk through is really creating a new audience and basically an experience, right, that we can then preview using the timeline feature. So let's go right in and let's dive into personalization. So one of the things to keep in mind, right, is that the way we look at personalization is we have experiences, and fundamentally we have audiences from them. So we've got a couple of different types here. We've got A/B testing and we've got a personalized segment. Of course, if I want to make a new one, I can just dive right in here. We can either create a segmentation to target specific audiences, or I can do an A/B test. Now, one of the cool things that you're going to see here is that this A/B test is actually draft. It's not active yet, but we're still going to be able to go and preview that as part of the timeline. So let's actually go in, and first of all, let's make sure that our segment here for our personalized segment is deactivated. And now we're just going to go in and add a new audience. So we'll go into an audience and let's create a new one. So let's say this is going to be for the August demo 2024. And we'll say group demo. And this is where I can start to create the attributes, right, that we're going to be using to target this particular segment. So in this example, I'll just do a quick one. We'll do a query parameter, and we'll say that the audience has to be demo 2024 August. So now once we've done that, if I go back into my experience for the personalization, this is where I can now add it into all of the different experiences, right, or all the different segments rather that we've created for this. So let's go in, I'll add a variant and we'll do August demo, very creative. And this is where I can now select exactly what those audiences are that we're going to target for. So I'll go in, we'll do our August demo 2024. We'll save that and now we'll activate it. So now we're going to activate this and it's going to start creating personalized experiences for visitors, but it's also, when I get into the editing experience, going to show this as a different variant. So let's dive into our editing experience. This is a very familiar view, I'm sure, for most folks today. And let's go in and, for example, let's make some changes to the homepage. So I'll go right in here. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed if you were on our ContentCon presentation is that we have this notion of variants now. So we have the ability to go in and make basically a different version of this content for different audiences. And we don't have to go around and make a copy of it and then edit that and link them together. I can just dive right down here and I can grab my August demo. And now we're viewing a draft of what we're going to be working on. So one of the challenges, right, is that when folks are working on something like this, right, how do we take a look at this in context? How do we see how it's all going to go together? And let's make some changes, right? So let's dive into, for example, let's open up my preview, and let's make some changes to this teaser content here. So we've got this fall into a great experience. Maybe I want to change this to something different. We'll say, you know, welcome to the August demo. And then we'll just do that, and we'll make some changes to the content here and say, this is for our August group demo. Let's save that out. And now I can select when I want to publish this out, right? So I can either have this be something that I want to go into preview immediately, or I can kind of put it in the future and then use our time machine, as John was saying, to look at it later. So I'm going to send this out to preview and production, and let's actually have this go live. Let's do it now. Let's get crazy. Let's do it now, and let's send this out. Or actually, let's do later. So I'm going to have this go live on August 1. So let's do August 1. We'll apply that. Let's send it out. And now what we've done is we've now published out, or we've scheduled out rather, the publication for our August demo variant for sometime in the future in August, right? So now let's hop over and see exactly what this is going to look like as part of that timeline experience. So what we're looking at now is the visual experience, right, of exactly what the site looks like now, and then also what it's going to look like in the future. And one of the cool things here is I have the ability to go right in and I can add preview links in, and I can say, okay, what do I want this schedule to look like? So I can go in, let's add a preview, and you can see here now, we've actually got a few things that we are scheduling to publish. We've got this scheduled publish, we've got a few releases here for Diwali and Oktoberfest and Test. And what's neat here is it gives you really a manifest of exactly what is coming up during your publication process for this. So I'll go in and let's do the scheduled publish, right? So let's click on that, and you can see here, okay, it's showing me the homepage. That's great. But one of the things now is that we're looking in preview, we're looking at this August 1, but what is this going to look like for a specific audience, for a specific segment? And that's really where this notion of having the audience impersonation comes in. So if I go over here into audiences and tick onto here, this is now going to show me, right, on this right-hand side, the different types of experience testing we're doing, whether it's an A/B test or whether it's a segmented experience. One of the things I like to point out here is that we're only going to be showing actual experiences that can be viewed. So if I go into segmented experience, right, this is now going to show me, okay, these are all of the things that we're targeting for, right? So we've got luxury relaxing, budget adventure, and you can see way down here, we've got the August demo, right? So we've got the August demo 2024, and that is one of the things that we can target for. So if I go in here, for example, and I start to select audiences, this is going to show me how in context, right, this page is going to change based upon these audiences. So if I go in here and of course tick on our August demo 2024, you can see now, you know, welcome to our August demo. This is for our August group demo. So super straightforward to see exactly what that personalization is going to look like. And then we can also go in and start to take a look at, okay, this is cool, but like, what's the Cliffs Notes here, right? What's been changed? What's the highlights? So if I go into my compare website here, you can see it's going to show me now basically the differences that have happened. Okay, we can see side by side, or I can dive in, highlight the differences, and you can see exactly the text, right, and the images and everything that's changed. So that's one example in terms of having it for, you know, making some content on a variant, right? And then of course going through. The other cool thing is when you start to look at this, you know, this impersonation, right? This audience impersonation, this can also go for your A/B testing as well. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, one of the things is we're only going to show experiences that are real, right? That we can actually test off of. So here you can see we've got the A/B testing, but it's in a draft stage, which is fine, but it's grayed out. And the reason for that is we're not actually really impersonating anything that would hit an A/B test. So here we've got August demo 2024. Well, that's not part of our A/B test. What is part of our A/B test is if we go in and let's add a few audiences. So if maybe I'm part of the relaxation, luxury, and I think APAC destination, you can now see the entire hero image, and in fact, the structure of the page has changed, right? Very dramatic change. And what we're doing is we're now showing in real time with John's time machine what this looks like from an A/B testing standpoint. So if I tick down here, this now gives me the ability to dive right in and say, okay, how are we testing for these three different audiences, right? And we've got really three different things that we're testing. We've got straightforward, adventurous, and fun. And it's a pretty small change that we've made, but what we want to do is test on this call to action. So you can see for straightforward, it says learn more. If I tick on to adventurous, it's going to say explore this. And of course, if I click on fun, it's going to be very dramatic and say, let's go, right? Let's go. So we get a few different options there, right, in terms of what that looks like. Now, to John's point earlier, this also gives you the ability, if we want to, we can turn these audiences off and go right back. If I want to see how content is really going to change in the future, right? So for example, as part of our homepage, we actually have a scheduled publish for an autumn experience. So if I actually dive back in to my homepage and I go to my demos, so let's go back to my base entry and let's find that autumn release. So this is an autumn release that we're going to be doing. It's a campaign, and this is how you create it, right? We're working on it here, making some changes. But what's cool is that now if I go in and I want to see how that's going to look really in the future, right? We've got this automatically for November, but I can also go in, add these different these dates. So let's say I want to do this scheduled publish for Friday, November 1st. And if I click in here, you can see my very compelling marketing copy there, fall into a great experience this November, right? And this is a totally different version of this entire modular block, and we can take a look. Now, of course, if I want to go in, compare here as well, I can compare and highlight the differences, and you can see, right, it's going to show me side by side what that entire new marketing message is going to look like. And of course, if I go and highlight the differences, it's going to show me everything that's changed there as well. And one more thing I just want to point out before I hand it back over is the other cool thing here is, like I said, this can be linked either to releases or it can be basically scheduled publishing. So really, whether you're going to be changing an entire campaign or if you're going to be just making a few changes, right? You want to see how those look in context, either as content itself or as part of a larger personalization or segmentation, you can do that. So that's all I had to share today. Hope you learned something. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Adam. And I think what we want to do is just come back a little bit to some of our future plans with Timeline and what's coming next. And so just want to pass it back over to John here so you can share some of the details about what's coming next. Some of the things some of these details we just went over.
Yep, thanks, Brandon. Just responding to some Q&A on the side here. So thank you, everyone, for your questions. Please keep those coming in. So the first thing on, and actually I'll kind of start on the right-hand side here. So what Adam was kind of teasing is actually a capability called audience impersonation that is coming out with our personalized app in September. We announced all this and demoed this at ContentCon about 6 weeks ago. We are currently in early access for Personalize. So please, if you haven't signed up for that, just go to contentstack.com/personalize, fill out the form. A member of our CSM team and most likely someone from my product team will be in touch to kind of get that process started and have a conversation around the early access program for Personalize. So the timeline feature is really one and kind of the first evidence of sort of visual experience creation at Contentstack. It's kind of like the natural evolution of where we are coming from with live preview, which is a capability that we were among the first to market with, but really ensuring that we're now providing a window into visual experience creation that is much more immersive, canvas-based, collaborative. And so we are continuing to invest and to add capabilities into that window specifically. So not just the visual experience window, but actually the timeline as we demoed, and of course, coming in September, the audience impersonation capabilities for Personalize, with a lot more to come as well. So you'll see that incrementally just get better every couple of months, essentially for the foreseeable future. One other kind of shifting to the left here of the screen, some notable capabilities that are coming down the pipe is the ability to actually share these previews externally. So a pretty common bit of feedback that we get from customers is, we have other stakeholders involved in the digital experience creation process. If we're planning for some big new campaign or release or product or promotion in the future, we may need to kind of share this with senior management. We need to share this with colleagues who are in other business units or business partners that don't have access to the CMS. So is there a way to do that? So we are working on actually the ability to kind of share these externally. The nice thing is this all is running through our preview service. And so it's actually just a couple of query parameters you have to add, and that's all you need to actually get that's the state of that feature service and that feature preview shared out. We're just making it really simple to do from the UI itself, along with providing some ways to kind of protect and secure those previews, and so that they stay insulated within that organization and that team. But probably that's the most common bit of feedback we got. So we are currently working on that, which is customers are really excited about.
Okay.
And one more
a couple of questions coming in here, but
oh sure, yeah, we can just pause here for questions, or I guess while the slides advance, we can just go ahead and cover that one in a minute or two. Then we'll kind of pause for questions at the end. So as I mentioned, this is kind of our the very first phase of kind of a multi-phase approach to, and you're kind of seeing this for the first time here live. Bit of a teaser for what's kind of coming down later this year, but we will be utilizing that window and that pane and that experience to sort of add deeper and deeper levels of capabilities for visual experience creation. And so in this case, it is a preview window with the ability to step through time, as well as the ability to step into the shoes of all of your audiences you are creating content for across your various experiences and experiments. Moving forward is actually the ability to do things a little more richly in terms of content management and creation, to the degree of actually going through with block-based building capabilities and the ability to do some edits inline as well. All, of course, backed by the enterprise-grade workflows and governance features and role-based access control and publishing rules that make Contentstack the only platform for enterprise-grade teams. These are all kind of sort of the really teasers, I guess, into some announcements we'll be having just about in a couple of months here. So stay tuned for that. And I think
thank you, John.
Now we can move to some Q&A.
I have a few questions here, yeah, that if we want can answer these.
Yeah, I'll answer them kind of verbally, and then I'll just drop an answer for posterity on our kind of Q&A panel here. So I'll just kind of go bottom of the top here. Can you do side-by-side comparison? Yes, so that was answered. Adam did show that in the demo, which is really awesome. That is not just side-by-side for any given entry. It's actually side-by-side for the any two dates. And so it actually is comparing the entire application as it will look on today's date and as it will look in a future date. You can actually toggle the sort of today date as well. So you don't need to always reference today. You can actually reference any 2 points in the future, and actually it'll highlight the differences between those as well. You also may have noticed the ability to change the viewport. So you can change it to be responsive, mobile, desktop, change the resolution, etc. So you really have full control over exactly how that application will render, and compare the differences between any 2 dates, not just even today. Let's see, next one, being recorded, of course, these are always recorded. Brandon, do you want to just mention verbally kind of where the audience can find this? Is this under our Pulse section, or where in the .com will we be logging these?
We will be sharing this out with everyone who registered, and then we will be posting it on we have a events page, a few different channels that will be posted on, but
okay,
yeah, we'll be sharing that out.
Perfect. Plenty of places to find that. Third question, timeline, feature depend on the presentation layer code base for any new page. So it does run off of our preview service. And so if you have our live preview SDK implemented and you are using the new preview tokens, we have a new preview service as well as of earlier this year. It just uses the exact same service as live preview. So if you have live preview working today, you'll just need to incorporate the new SDK and it will function automatically. So everything will work just the same. which is really nice. So the upgrade process, we've with our customers and the internal teams that we've had go through that, it takes a developer just a few minutes there. So really, really simple. Next question, timeline may require live preview. Yeah, that's also correct. So it is working off of our single SDK, single preview service. That makes it really nice for the developers in the room to be able to know that basically everything that we're doing with the visual experience layer essentially is running off of a single kind of visual experience SDK. And we'll continue to just add plugins to that and methods and functions into that moving forward, so that the developer experience incrementally is quite ergonomic and productive and seamless to make those upgrades. So that's a really important capability for us, and a really important distinction is that we do want to make adoption of these new capabilities really easy and seamless to ensure that we're getting, our customers are getting the benefit as soon as they possibly can, as soon as we are releasing the features. Thank you, Mark, for all the questions. And so the last one here is, like to understand how this will work where branches are being used to. Yeah, so this is targeting, just like live preview is targeted to an environment and a locale. And so actually, I should say primarily just an environment, because actually locales are specific to the preview service. So branches, there's no change to how branches work. If you have the experience targeted to an environment and whatever branch that you are targeting there, it'll essentially function just the same. So you'll notice in the application, essentially, I think Adam was probably in the main branch for that stack. But if he was in a different branch, the entire preview service and all the content therein and the content models could look entirely differently. So that is one of the top level, I guess, filters for those previews. And I think one clarification on there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Question. Thank you, Mark, again for all the questions here about requirement for code base that may not yet be. So we have, if I understand correctly, all of our documentation will contain kind of instructions and how-tos and requirements for various implementation styles. And so whatever your rendering method happens to be, SSR, CSR, SSG, et cetera, we support all of those in some level, as well as basically the incremental updates you may need to make moving from live preview with the SDK version that is today to the version that will support timeline. But again, it's just an SDK update, as well as using the new preview token if you're currently using a delivery token.
That feels like a pretty good timing with just a few seconds left to spare. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. And if you're interested in learning more, contact Group CSM, reach out to us. We're happy to share more. And as always, we do these every month. So we'll see you next month.
Yeah, and I think maybe the last thing, which I don't know if it was actually on the deck, I didn't mention it in the chat for everyone publicly. We are going live with this next week. So that is our release date. Mid next week is the date we're targeting. So everyone will see. I believe we'll do a marketing email, but for sure an in-app message as well. And upon that date, all of our documentation will be refreshed to make the upgrade as well. The onboarding is very seamless and simple and easy. So we've been working behind the scenes to make that onboarding experience for editors and developers really painless and really easy, so that when they do see the new experience, they'll have a really good idea of what they need to do there.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Everyone.